This is a corporate office, not a runway for body positivity. The words cracked through the air like a whip, crisp, cold, and calculated. Rebecca didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her tone was velvet-lined steel, the kind only a woman born into power learns to wield. Standing beside her son's desk in her tailored black and white jacket and diamond-studded pearls, she barely spared Nia a full glance. Just a once-over, slow and disapproving, like she was surveying a stain on marble. Nia had barely taken 3 steps into the office. The Yale diploma was still firm in her right hand, her posture poised, her jaw locked. But the sting of those words, veiled in professionalism, yet sharpened with prejudice, clung to the room like smoke. Michael blinked, his fingers stiff on the desk's edge. He looked toward his mother, then toward Nia, caught, as always, between legacy and truth. The sunlight pouring in from the floor-to-ceiling windows did little to warm the space. It only made the tension shine brighter. In the heart of New York City's glittering skyline, where steel towers pierced the clouds like unyielding ambitions, Michael Harrington reigned over apex innovations with the cold precision of a machine. At just 30, he had built a tech empire from the ground up, turning innovative algorithms into billions. His office on the 50th floor was a testament to his worldview. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls that offered panoramic views of the bustling metropolis below, but reflected only stark minimalism inside. Matte black furniture, a single chrome desk lamp casting harsh shadows, and not a speck of dust or disorder. Everything screamed control. Control over code, over employees, over life itself. Michael sat there now, his sharp jawline set, blue eyes scanning a tablet with the intensity of a predator. Tall and lean, dressed in a bespoke gray suit that hugged his athletic frame, he embodied the ideal his mother had etched into his soul from childhood. "Darling, true success demands a certain slenderness," Rebecca Harrington's voice echoed in his mind, a ghost from countless dinners at their Upper East Side penthouse. "Anything else is just distracting, don't you think? It muddles the message, makes things untidy." She had been a powerhouse in the fashion world, a former editor whose opinions were as sharp as her stilettos. Rebecca had raised Michael on a diet of perfection, slim figures for poise, polished appearances for power. It wasn't just about aesthetics. It was a code, unspoken yet ironclad. In her world, and now his, curvy women were anomalies, disruptions to the streamlined narrative of success. And if those curves belonged to someone with natural black beauty, well, that was even more distracting. Rebecca never said it outright, but her sidelong glances at diverse crowds, her comments about fitting the brand, painted a clear picture. Black women with full figures? They didn't align with the professional ideal she championed. Michael had internalized it all, turning it into his company's foundation. No one in his inner circle strayed from that line. Lateness, fired, bright colors, demoted, curves, out the door before they even sat down. He glanced at the silver clock on the wall, 10 a.m. sharp. "Emily," he said into the intercom, his voice clipped and authoritative, "send in the 10 a.m. interview." "Yes, Mr. Harrington," his assistant replied, her tone efficient as always. Emily Thompson had been with him for years, a slim, blonde woman in her 40s who embodied the very rules he upheld: reliable, unassuming, invisible when needed. The door opened with a soft whoosh, and the air in the room seemed to shift, carrying a subtle warmth that clashed with the sterile chill. She didn't just enter, she arrived. Nia Okoye strode in with the confidence of someone who owned every inch of space she occupied. Her mahogany skin glowed under the fluorescent lights, a rich, warm hue that spoke of sun-kissed heritage and unyielding strength. Her figure was a celebration of curves, full hips swaying with purposeful grace in a tailored emerald pantsuit that hugged her form without apology. Modest, professional, yet undeniably radiant. Her dark curls were pulled into an elegant twist, framing a face with high cheekbones, full lips curved in a genuine smile, and eyes like polished onyx, sharp, knowing, and unafraid. Michael stood automatically, his training kicking in, but his mind stuttered. This wasn't what he'd expected from the resume. Yale MBA, top of her class. 6 years at a Fortune 500 firm, fluent in Spanish and Yoruba, impeccable credentials. But her presence, it challenged everything. Rebecca's words flickered again. Slenderness, darling. It's about focus. Nia's curves were the opposite, bold, unignorable. And her blackness? In his world of pale boardrooms and neutral palettes, it felt like a statement, a disruption. He hesitated a fraction too long before extending his hand. Miss Okoye, he said, his voice steady but his grip firmer than necessary. Mr. Harrington, she replied, her handshake warm and assured, her voice smooth like velvet with a subtle lilt that hinted at her American roots intertwined with African echoes. It's an honor to be here. Apex Innovations is revolutionizing tech accessibility. I've followed your work closely. He motioned to the chair opposite his desk, sinking back into his own as she sat. Up close, her poise was even more striking. No fidgeting, no overly eager smiles seeking approval. She met his gaze directly, her posture impeccable. Michael flipped open her file, buying time. Your resume is impressive. Yale, bilingual skills, and experience in international markets. Why leave a stable position at Lawson Corp to apply as an executive assistant here? Nia's eyes didn't waver. Because stability isn't growth, Mr. Harrington. At Lawson, I optimized operations for global teams, but Apex is where innovation meets impact. I want to be at the heart of that, observing leadership that demands excellence without compromise. Your reputation for precision precedes you. He leaned back slightly, her words both flattering and probing. Precision was his mantra, but hearing it from her lips stirred something unfamiliar. She wasn't just reciting lines, she believed them. And yet as she spoke, his eyes betrayed him, drifting to the way her suit accentuated her curves. A distraction, just as Rebecca had warned. But was it? Or was it something else? He cleared his throat. And what makes you think you can handle my expectations? This role isn't for the faint-hearted. Deadlines are non-negotiable, disruptions unacceptable. She smiled faintly, a spark of challenge in her eyes. I've thrived in high-pressure environments because I don't bend under it, I reshape it. As a Black woman navigating corporate America, I've learned to turn obstacles into opportunities. Pressure? I break it down, piece by piece. Her words hung in the air, laced with a quiet power. Black woman, she said it plainly, without apology, forcing him to confront the label his mind had already applied. In his circles, diversity was a buzzword for HR reports, not reality. Women like her, curvy, confident, unapologetically Black, were rare in these glass towers, often sidelined with whispers of not quite fitting the culture. Rebecca would call it practicality, but Michael felt a twinge of unease. Was he part of that? He nodded curtly. We'll see. I'll offer a 2-week probation. Start Monday. Emily will handle the details. As she rose, extending her hand again, he took it, warmth seeping through his fingers like an unwelcome thaw. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. You won't regret this. The door closed behind her, and Michael sat still for a moment, the room feeling oddly emptier. He buzzed Emily. Hire her. Probation only. Monday arrived like clockwork. Nia showed up early, her energy a subtle contrast to the office's monochrome hum. She dove in without fanfare, reorganizing his overflowing inbox with color-coded tabs that made sense at a glance. By noon, she'd streamlined his calendar, blocking out micro breaks he hadn't realized he needed. Mr. Harrington, she said during their first briefing, handing him a steaming mug. Try this. It's a herbal tea blend from my family's traditions. Helps with migraines. I noticed you rubbing your temples last week. He paused, the mug warm in his hands. The aroma was soothing, earthy, nothing like the bland coffee he guzzled. How did you? Observation, she replied simply. Part of the job. As the day wore on, Nia anticipated his needs. Files prepped before meetings, client notes summarized with insights he'd overlooked. Her presence was efficient, but it lingered. Colleagues whispered in the break room. She's different, one said, eyes flicking to her curves, and skin tone with that veiled judgment Michael knew too well. Think she'll last? Harrington's picky about the look around here. It was code for the unspoken. Curvy Black women didn't often climb these ladders without extra scrutiny. their bodies and backgrounds seen as too much for the sleek corporate facade. Michael overheard but said nothing, burying himself in code reviews. Yet by evening, as Nia left with a polite, "Good night," he found himself watching her go. Her difference wasn't a flaw, it was magnetic. For the first time, his rules felt less like armor and more like chains. But change? That was a disruption he wasn't ready for. Not yet. The first week at Apex Innovations unfolded like a carefully scripted algorithm, but with Nia Okoye in the mix, even the most predictable code began to glitch. Monday morning dawned crisp and unforgiving, the kind of New York day where the sun fought through smog to cast long shadows on the sidewalks. Michael arrived at his office at precisely 7:45 a.m. As always, expecting the usual rhythm, Emily's efficient briefing, a stack of reports, and the hum of servers in the data center below. But Nia was already there, her desk outside his glass-walled sanctuary, organized with military precision. She greeted him with a nod and a mug of that herbal tea she'd introduced during the interview. Steaming, aromatic, a subtle invasion of warmth into his sterile domain. "Good morning, Mr. Harrington," she said, her voice steady and inviting, like a melody cutting through static. "I've pulled the overnight analytics on the new AI prototype, flagged a potential bottleneck in the user interface. Nothing critical, but addressing it now could save us weeks." He took the mug, his fingers brushing hers briefly, sending an unexpected jolt through him. "Efficient start," he muttered, retreating to his desk. But as he sipped the tea, earthy notes of ginger and lemongrass easing the tension in his temples. He couldn't deny it. She was good, damn good. By mid-morning, Nia had not only reorganized his overflowing digital files into intuitive folders, but also anticipated a client query from Tokyo, drafting a response before the email even hit his inbox. "How did you know?" he asked during their midday check-in, leaning against the doorframe. Nia looked up from her screen, her curls catching the light in a way that made her seem almost luminous. "Patterns, Mr. Harrington. Clients like them repeat behaviors. Plus, I've dealt with cross-cultural negotiations before. Subtle cues in emails, like the formal phrasing here, scream urgency without saying it outright." Her explanation was flawless, laced with insight he hadn't expected from an assistant. But it wasn't just her intellect, it was her presence. Those curves, embraced by a fitted navy blouse and skirt, moved with a grace that defied his mother's drilled-in disdain for anything distracting. Rebecca's voice nagged at him again. "Slenderness keeps things clean, Michael. Curves, they complicate the narrative." And Nia's blackness added another layer, her mahogany skin a bold contrast in a sea of pale faces around the office. In corporate America, women like her often navigated invisible barriers, their natural beauty labeled unprofessional or too ethnic in hushed tones. Michael had seen it, boardrooms where diversity hires were tokens, their ideas dismissed with smiles that hid prejudice. Yet Nia didn't shrink, she expanded, filling the space with quiet authority. As the days blurred into a rhythm, the office began to buzz. Whispers echoed in the break room, where baristas frothed lattes and employees traded gossip. "Did you see Harrington's new assistant?" one junior analyst murmured to another, a young woman with stick-straight hair and a pencil skirt. "She's bold. All those curves and that confidence in this place? Bold move." Her colleague, a lanky guy from sales, chuckled lowly. "Yeah, but does she fit the vibe? Harrington's all about sleek and streamlined. Remember the last one? Gone in a month for not aligning. And she's black too. Bet the old guard's twitching." The comments were veiled, the kind of microaggressions that peppered corporate life. Assumptions that a curvy black woman must be overcompensating or not quite executive material. Nia overheard snippets as she grabbed a water bottle, her expression unchanging. But inside she steeled herself. She'd faced it before. At Lawson Corp, where promotions went to slimmer, whiter counterparts, her ideas credited to others with a pat on the back and a "you're so articulate" thrown in for good measure. But she pushed forward, her excellence a shield. Michael noticed the shift too. In meetings, his eyes drifted to her more often than he cared to admit. During a strategy session on Wednesday, as the team debated scaling the AI platform, Nia interjected subtly from her note-taking perch. If I may, Mr. Harrington, the data shows a dip in engagement from urban demographics. Perhaps integrating more inclusive algorithms, like voice recognition tuned for diverse accents, could bridge that. The room fell silent for a beat. Michael met her gaze, surprised but intrigued. Explain. She did, fluidly, her words painting a picture of equity in tech. How overlooking black and brown users meant missing markets. It was brilliant, but it challenged him. Her confidence, unapologetic about her curves and heritage, stirred something deep. Rebecca would scoff. Too much fire, darling. It burns bridges. But to Michael, it was magnetic, a disruption he craved yet feared. By Thursday, the attraction simmered beneath the surface. He found excuses to linger near her desk, reviewing a report, asking for a file. Their conversations grew from professional to probing. Tell me, Miss Okoye, he said during a late afternoon lull, the office emptying around them. How do you stay so composed? This industry's a pressure cooker. Nia leaned back slightly, her eyes thoughtful. I've had to learn, Mr. Harrington. As a curvy black woman in these spaces, you're always under a microscope. Whispers about your body being too much, questions about whether your ideas are too aggressive. It's like standing in a storm. You either get swept away or become the eye of it, calm and unmovable. Her words hit like a revelation. He'd heard the office chatter, seen the sidelong glances, subtle biases that labeled her exotic or intimidating simply for existing. In America, where corporate ladders were greased for some and rigged for others, women like Nia fought twice as hard, their curves and color seen as hurdles rather than assets. Michael felt a pang of guilt. Had he contributed to that? Impressive resilience, he replied, his voice softer than intended. She smiled, a genuine curve of her lips that lit up her face. Resilience is just survival with style. Emily caught him later, as he stared out the window at the twilight skyline. She's shaking things up, isn't she? His assistant said, arching a brow. Emily had been his gatekeeper for years, privy to the unspoken rules. Different good or? Michael adjusted his tie, masking the turmoil. Efficient, that's all. But it wasn't. That night, alone in his sleek loft overlooking Central Park, Michael poured a scotch and replayed the day. Nia's voice echoed, her laugh during a quick team huddle, the way she commanded respect without demanding it. Her curves, once a distraction, now symbolized strength, a defiance of the narrow ideals his mother had imposed. And her black heritage? It added depth, a richness he'd never allowed himself to appreciate in his monochromatic world. The attraction was initial, tentative, like the first crack in ice. He fought it, clinging to control, but deep down his heart had begun to thaw. Rules were bending, and for the first time Michael wondered if breaking them might set him free. As the first week bled into the second, the air at Apex Innovations thickened with an undercurrent of unspoken tension, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. Michael Harrington moved through his days with the same mechanical precision, reviewing code, sealing deals, commanding boardrooms. But Nia Okoye's presence had woven itself into the fabric of his routine, a vibrant thread disrupting the monochrome tapestry. She was everywhere and nowhere, a shadow of efficiency outside his office, a voice of reason in meetings, a lingering warmth that followed him home. By Tuesday, their interactions had evolved from curt exchanges to something deeper, laced with curiosity. Mr. Harrington, she said during a quiet moment in the executive lounge, handing him a revised report. I've added projections based on diverse market data. Tech isn't one size fits all. Overlooking urban communities means leaving money on the table. He took the document, their fingers grazing, a spark that made him pull back sharply. Insightful, he replied, his blue eyes locking onto hers for a beat too long. Nia's mahogany skin seemed to absorb the fluorescent glow, her curves accentuated by a crimson wrap dress that was professional yet unapologetically bold. In a world where women like her, curvy, black, radiant, were often reduced to exotic distractions in corporate whispers, she stood as a beacon of defiance. Michael felt it acutely now, the pull warring with his ingrained biases. Rebecca's voice slithered in. Keep it clean, darling. Anything too vibrant complicates things. Vibrant, a code word for the subtle prejudices that labeled black women as too much. Their bodies objectified, their heritage exoticized, their intellects underestimated. Yet Nia didn't falter. She met his gaze with that onyx-eyed steadiness. It's about equity. In spaces like this, voices like mine are often sidelined, seen as novelties rather than necessities. Her words were a gentle prod, highlighting the microaggressions she'd navigated, the raised eyebrows at her natural curls, the assumptions that her curves made her less serious in a sea of slim silhouettes. Michael nodded, swallowing the discomfort. Noted. We'll discuss it in the next strategy session. The moments accumulated like raindrops before a downpour. A shared elevator ride where their arms brushed, sending electricity through him. A late-night email exchange about a client pitch. Her responses witty and incisive, drawing a rare smile from him in the solitude of his loft. By Friday, the tension snapped. As the office emptied for the weekend, Michael lingered at her desk. Miss Okoya, you've exceeded expectations this week. Care to join me for a debrief? Somewhere off-site, strictly professional. Nia's lips curved into a knowing smile. Professional? Of course, lead the way. They chose a dimly lit jazz club in Harlem, a hidden gem where saxophones wailed soulfully and the crowd swayed to rhythms born from Black American heritage. It was Nia's suggestion, a place where the music tells stories, she'd said, and Michael agreed, intrigued by this glimpse into her world. The club was alive with energy, velvet booths, low-hanging lamps casting golden hues, the air thick with the scent of bourbon and history. They settled into a corner table, away from prying eyes. Michael ordered scotch, Nia a glass of red wine. As a pianist launched into a sultry rendition of Strange Fruit, Nia leaned in. This song, it's more than melody. It's my people's legacy. Pain, resilience, beauty in the face of erasure. He watched her, mesmerized. Tell me more. It was an invitation he hadn't planned, but the words slipped out. Nia's eyes softened, her voice weaving tales like the notes around them. My family traces back to Nigeria. Okoye means born on market day, a symbol of abundance and community. But here in America, that heritage gets twisted. Growing up, I heard stories from my grandmother, how she immigrated, built a life amid Jim Crow echoes, her curves and dark skin seen as threats or temptations. Exotic, they'd call it, like a compliment, but it's code for other. In boardrooms, it's the same. My body, my blackness, makes me memorable for all the wrong reasons. People flirt, stare, assume I'm here for show, not substance. Michael shifted, the weight of her words pressing on him. He'd seen it, the way men in suits eyed her in meetings, their compliments laced with objectification, reducing her to an exotic prize rather than a powerhouse. It stirred something primal in him, a flicker of possessiveness he didn't recognize. That must be exhausting, he said quietly, fighting those perceptions every day. She shrugged, but her eyes betrayed the toll. It is, but it fuels me, like this music, born from struggle, yet it soars. The conversation flowed, barriers crumbling under the jazz's spell. They laughed over shared frustrations with tech glitches, debated ethics and AI. For the first time, Michael opened up about his relentless drive, the void left by his father's absence, and Rebecca's unyielding standards that shaped him into a fortress. She taught me that control is everything. Softness, weakness. Nia reached across the table, her hand covering his briefly. Control is an illusion. Real strength is vulnerability. The moment was shattered when a familiar voice cut in. Nia, is that you? A tall, polished man in his 30s, David, her old colleague from Lawson Corp., white with that easy charm of entitlement, approached their table, his eyes lighting up as they raked over her curves. You look incredible. Still turning heads, I see. Nia's smile was polite but guarded. David, small world. He lingered, flirting shamelessly. Remember that conference in Chicago? You were the star, exotic energy lighting up the room. The word exotic landed like a subtle jab. a common microaggression that exoticized black women, turning their heritage into a fetish. Michael's jaw tightened, jealousy surging hot and unexpected. Who was this guy to claim her attention, to reduce her to a novelty? He felt the sting of his hypocrisy. Hadn't he thought similarly at first? But now it ignited protectiveness, a raw emotion he'd long suppressed. David finally left, but the damage was done. Michael's fists clenched under the table. Old friend? Colleague, Nia corrected, sensing his tension. The kind who sees me as a conquest, not an equal. It's tiring. Being exotic means you're desired but not respected. The jealousy boiled over into honesty. I hate that he looked at you like that. She arched a brow, amused yet touched. Jealous, Mr. Harrington? He met her eyes, the dim lights reflecting the storm within. Maybe. The band struck up a slow blues number, and without words he stood, offering his hand. They danced, bodies close but not touching at first, the rhythm pulling them in. Her curves fit against him like puzzle pieces he hadn't known were missing, her warmth melting his defenses. As the song crested, he tilted her chin up, their lips meeting in a kiss that was fire and revelation, soft, urgent, tasting of wine and unspoken promises. They broke apart, breathless, slipping out into the night. In the cab back, Michael whispered, we keep it secret. For now. My world, Rebecca, the board. They wouldn't understand. Nia's expression hardened slightly. Understand what? That I'm different? I'm not afraid of being seen as other in your world, Michael. Are you? Her challenge lingered, a gauntlet thrown. He pulled her close again, but doubt seeded in his mind. The romance was expanding, secret and intoxicating, but secrets had a way of unraveling. For now, though, under the city's neon glow, it was enough to feel alive. The secret romance between Michael Harrington and Nia Okoye bloomed in stolen moments, a fragile flame flickering against the winds of corporate reality. But fate had a way of turning whispers into roars. It started on a mundane Wednesday morning, the kind where New York's skyline shimmered under a deceptive calm, hiding the chaos about to unleash. Michael strode into Apex Innovations with his usual armored confidence. The taste of Nia's kiss from their jazz club rendezvous still lingering like a forbidden elixir. Their affair was a tightly guarded secret, quick touches in the elevator, coded emails that masked desire as diligence. But it infused his world with color, cracking the facade he'd built so meticulously. Nia was at her desk as always, her mahogany skin radiant under the office lights, her curves draped in a sleek black sheath dress that screamed professionalism while defying the narrow ideals Michael once upheld. Morning, she murmured, handing him a tablet with the day's agenda. Their eyes met, a silent spark passing between them, but duty called. The boardroom awaited, filled with executives debating the next big AI rollout. As Michael led the discussion, Nia's notes were impeccable, her interjections sharp and insightful, earning nods from the team, though some glances lingered too long on her figure, laced with that subtle judgment she'd grown accustomed to. Then the storm broke. Emily burst into the meeting, her face pale as parchment. Mr. Harrington, it's everywhere. Check your phone. Michael's device buzzed incessantly, notifications flooding the screen like a digital deluge. Headlines screamed from news apps. Apex Innovations exposed. Leaked emails revealed discriminatory hiring practices. His stomach plummeted. The emails, old internal threads from years past, had been anonymously leaked to a major tech blog. They painted a damning picture. Discussions about candidates dismissed for not fitting the brand, with veiled references to body types and backgrounds. One particularly insidious line from a former HR rep read, "She's talented, but her look, too curvy, too ethnic, doesn't align with our sleek image." Ethnic, a euphemism for black, for women like Nia, whose natural beauty challenged the homogenized corporate mold. The leaks tied directly to Michael's unspoken rules, echoing Rebecca's influence. Slenderness as supremacy, curves as chaos, and blackness as an other to be sidelined. Social media erupted in fury. Hashtags like Checker Apex Bias and Checker Corporate Racism trended, amplified by influencers from the Black community. This is systemic. One viral post from a prominent activist declared, dismissing curvy black women as unprofessional while white execs get passes. Apex, do better. Comments poured in, stories of rejected applicants, whispers of microaggressions in tech giants, echoes of Black Lives Matter rallying cries demanding accountability. Protesters gathered outside the building by noon, signs waving, "Curves belong in boardrooms," and "End the exclusion." The stock ticker on Michael's screen dipped sharply, investors panicking as the scandal threatened to tank Apex's reputation as an innovative leader. Michael's office became a war room. He paced like a caged lion, phone glued to his ear, barking at PR consultants. "How the hell did this get out?" he demanded. Emily hovered, fielding calls from reporters. "Sir, they're linking it to your old-fashioned empire, saying it's a family legacy of exclusion." Rebecca, of course. Her public persona as a beauty mogul had long championed timeless elegance, code for Eurocentric standards that marginalized bodies like Nia's. Full, curvaceous, unapologetically black. Michael's rules were her echo, now exposed for the world to dissect. He slammed his fist on the desk, the glass vibrating, guilt twisted in his gut. Had his biases fueled this? Nia entered then, her poise unbroken amid the frenzy. "Michael," she said softly, closing the door, using his first name, a breach of their secret protocol that felt like a lifeline. "We need to address this head on." He turned to her, vulnerability cracking his facade. "This is my fault. Those emails, they reflect what I used to believe, what she taught me." Nia's eyes softened but steel underpinned her gaze. "It's bigger than you. This is what black women face daily. Our bodies policed, our talent questioned. Too curvy means too black, too threatening to the status quo. But you can change the narrative." She placed a hand on his arm, her touch grounding him. "Hold a press conference. Own it. Commit to reform." The idea terrified him. Public admission meant dismantling his armor, exposing the prejudices he'd internalized. But Nia's words echoed the growing outcry. Communities demanding justice, inspired by movements like Black Lives Matter that had spotlighted institutional racism. By afternoon, the decision was made. Michael stood before a podium in the lobby, cameras flashing like lightning, reporters jostling for quotes. The crowd outside chanted faintly through the glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice steady despite the knot in his throat, "today's revelations about Apex innovations are unacceptable. Past communications reveal biases in our hiring, prejudices against body types and backgrounds that do not reflect who we aspire to be. I take full responsibility. These rules, unspoken or not, stem from outdated ideals that exclude talented individuals, particularly curvy women and women of color, whose contributions are vital to innovation." The room hushed. He glanced at Nia in the wings, her nod bolstering him. "Effective immediately, we're implementing reforms, mandatory bias training, diverse hiring panels, and partnerships with organizations supporting black women in tech. No more exclusion. Apex will lead by example." Questions flew like arrows. "Mr. Harrington, is this tied to your mother's influence?" one reporter probed. Michael paused, Rebecca's face flashing in his mind, her subtle digs at diversity hires as tokens. "My upbringing shaped me, but it doesn't define me. We're moving forward." Another, "What about allegations of current discrimination? Your new assistant, rumors say she's facing internal pushback." He stiffened. Whispers had reached the press, employees viewing Nia as an outsider, her curves and blackness sparking envy masked as concern. "Nia Okoye is exemplary," he declared, his voice firm. "Her talent speaks for itself. Any pushback is a symptom of the culture we're changing." The conference ended in a whirlwind, but the backlash lingered. Online, trolls amplified the hate. Apex going woke, hiring for curves over competence? Subtle racism seeped through, framing Nia as a diversity quota rather than a force. In the office, tension crackled. Some staff supportive, others resentful, their biases exposed in sidelong glances and muttered complaints. "She's the reason for this mess," one exec whispered in the hall, eyeing Nia's form as if it were the scandal itself. That evening, as the city lights twinkled like accusatory stars, Michael and Nia retreated to his loft, a breach of secrecy born from necessity. She supported him through the exhaustion, her presence a balm. "You did well today," she said, curling against him on the couch. "But it's just the start. Real change means confronting the everyday, the stares, the assumptions that black women like me are aggressive for speaking up." He held her tighter, jealousy from the jazz club fading into fierce protectiveness. "I won't let this break us." But as protests echoed faintly outside, the crisis tested their bond, forging it in fire. The media storm raged on, but in its eye, their love deepened, a secret weapon against the chaos. The media storm at Apex Innovations raged on like a relentless hurricane, leaving debris in its wake. But for Michael Harrington and Nia Okoye, the eye of the cyclone offered a fleeting sanctuary where their secret romance could breathe. Yet storms have a way of spawning new tempests, and this one brewed not in boardrooms or headlines, but in the intimate confines of family ties. It was a crisp autumn evening when the invitation came. Rebecca Harrington's annual family dinner at her Upper East Side penthouse, a tradition as polished and unyielding as the woman herself. Michael had dreaded it since the leaks, knowing his mother's sharp eyes would dissect every crack in his facade. "Bring someone if you'd like," she'd said over the phone, her voice dripping with that faux casual tone that masked expectation. He hesitated, then extended the invite to Nia. "It'll be, interesting," he warned, his hand lingering on hers in the dim light of his loft. Rebecca's old school. Nia had smiled, her onyx eyes gleaming with resolve. "I've handled worse. Besides, secrets can't hide forever." But beneath her poise lay the wariness of a woman who'd navigated worlds where her curves and blackness were perpetual outsiders. Corporate spaces that whispered exotic as a backhanded compliment. Family gatherings where her heritage was tokenized or ignored. In America, interracial relationships often danced on eggshells, with cultural clashes amplified by subtle biases that frame black women as too bold or not refined enough for elite circles. The penthouse loomed like a gilded cage, its marble floors echoing under their footsteps as they arrived. Rebecca greeted them at the door, her slim frame draped in a pearl-white ensemble that screamed understated luxury. At 60, she was a vision of preserved elegance, high cheekbones, silver-streaked hair, and a flawless chignon, blue eyes appraising like a jeweler spotting flaws. "Michael, darling," she cooed, air-kissing his cheeks. Her gaze shifted to Nia, pausing just a fraction too long on her emerald gown that hugged her full curves with graceful confidence. "And you must be—" "Nia Okoye," Nia replied, extending a hand with warmth. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Harrington." Rebecca took it lightly, her smile tight. "Charming. Do come in. Dinner's almost ready." As they entered the dining room, crystal chandeliers casting diamond fractals on the walls, a long mahogany table set with heirloom china, Nia's father, Kwame Okoye, was already there, invited at Michael's insistence for balance. Kwame, a robust man in his late 50s with salt and pepper hair and a booming laugh, rose to embrace his daughter. An immigrant from Nigeria who'd built a successful import business in Brooklyn, he embodied the strength of his Yoruba roots, proud, resilient, unbowed by America's often unwelcoming shores. The evening started cordially enough, with small talk over appetizers. Rebecca praising Michael's recent press conference as damage control at its finest, while Kwame shared anecdotes about Nia's childhood, his accent rich with Nigerian inflections. "My Nia was always a fighter," he said, beaming. "From the moment she was born, she had that Okoye fire. Purpose in every step. In Yoruba tradition, we say Eniyan ni aso. People are the cloth that adorns life. Her curves, her spirit, they're a blessing from the ancestors, not something to hide." Rebecca's fork paused midair, her expression polite but frosted. "How quaint. Traditions are lovely, aren't they? In my world, the fashion and business elite, we've always emphasized poise through refinement. Slenderness, keeps things streamlined. Less distraction, more focus." Her eyes flicked to Nia's figure, the comment landing like a veiled arrow. It was classic Rebecca, subtle body shaming wrapped in sophistication, implying that curves, especially on a black woman, were excessive, unprofessional, a deviation from the American standard of beauty that privileged slim, white ideals. In elite circles, such remarks were commonplace, coding racism as concern. Black women with full bodies often labeled voluptuous in a way that exoticized them, reducing their presence to something ornamental rather than authoritative. Nia felt the sting, her smile unwavering but her grip on her wineglass tightening. She'd endured it before. Dinner parties where her body was subtly critiqued, her blackness politely othered with questions like, "Where are you really from?" that dismissed her American identity. "Refinement comes in many forms, Mrs. Harrington," she replied evenly. "My curves are part of who I am, a celebration of my heritage, not a distraction. In corporate America, women like me have to work twice as hard to be seen as refined, especially when biases stack the deck." Kwame nodded vigorously, his voice rising with pride. "Exactly. Back home, we honor the full spectrum of beauty, strong hips for bearing the future, dark skin kissed by the sun gods. Nia's mother, God rest her soul, was just like her, a queen in every sense. Here in America, though, they try to squeeze us into boxes. But Okoyas don't shrink. We expand." His words carried the weight of immigrant struggles, the racism that greeted him upon arrival, the assumptions that his accent meant lesser intellect, the way black families were often viewed as cultural curiosities in white spaces. Rebecca's laugh was light, almost musical, but it rang hollow. "Oh, Mr. Okoye, how poetic. But in high society, fitting in is key. Michael knows that. I've taught him well. Darling, remember that gala last year? All those slim, poised women representing brands flawlessly? No. Complications." The subtext was clear. Complications like Nia's curves and blackness, which didn't align with Rebecca's Eurocentric vision of poise. It was a microaggression dressed as advice, implying that black women, especially curvy ones, disrupted the elegant narrative of upper-class America. Too ethnic, too bold for the refined elite. Michael's jaw clenched, the conflict churning inside him like acid. He loved Nia, the way her presence had thawed his world, challenging the very prejudices his mother embodied. But Rebecca's approval was a tether, her words echoing his old self. Control through conformity, exclusion masked as excellence. "Mother," he interjected, his voice strained, "Nia's not a complication. She's brilliant. At Apex, she's driving the changes we're making." Rebecca arched a perfectly groomed brow. "Brilliant, yes, but fit. In our world, image matters. Perhaps a little adjustment? Keto works wonders for that professional edge." The insult landed squarely on Nia's body, a thinly veiled attack on her curves as unprofessional, amplified by the racial undertone that black women's natural forms were inherently less acceptable in white-dominated spheres. Kwame's face darkened, his protective instincts flaring. "Adjustment? My daughter doesn't need to adjust for anyone. She's a force, built empires in rooms that tried to erase her. Yoruba blood runs strong. We don't bend to fit molds that weren't made for us." The table fell silent, the air thick with unspoken divides, cultural chasms where Rebecca's white privilege clashed with Kwame's African-American resilience, Michael's loyalties torn between legacy and love. Nia placed a hand on her father's arm, her voice calm but edged. "Mrs. Harrington, respect is mutual. My body, my heritage. They're assets, not liabilities. If they don't fit your world, perhaps it's the world that needs expanding." Rebecca sipped her wine, unfazed. "Touché, dear. But worlds like ours have standards for a reason." Michael's heart pounded. The dinner was a battlefield where he had to choose sides. He reached under the table for Nia's hand, squeezing it, a silent vow amid the storm. The evening dragged on with forced civility, but the fractures were etched deep. As they left, the city's lights blurring through the car window, Michael whispered, "I'm sorry. She's set in her ways." Nia turned to him, eyes shimmering with unshed emotion. "Ways that hurt, Michael. But if we're real, we face them together." The conflict had exposed raw nerves, family prejudices, cultural rifts, but it also forged resolve. In the quiet aftermath, their bond tightened, a testament to love's power over division. Yet shadows loomed, whispering that more battles awaited. The fissures from the family dinner lingered like cracks in fine china, invisible at first but deepening under pressure, threatening to shatter everything Michael Harrington held dear. In the days following Rebecca's barbed remarks and Kwame's defiant pride, Michael found himself adrift in a sea of turmoil, the media scandal at Apex Innovations still swirling like a vortex, pulling at the edges of his carefully constructed life. Protesters outside the office had dwindled, but the online backlash persisted. Tweets dissecting his press conference, forums debating whether his reforms were genuine or performative. Investors called incessantly, demanding assurances, while employees whispered in hallways, their eyes darting to Nia Okoye, as if she were both the cause and the cure. Through it all, their secret romance became his anchor. Stolen lunches in hidden cafes, late-night texts that blurred the line between professional and passionate. But anchors can drag you under, and Michael's insecurities, fueled by the storm, began to surface like jagged rocks. It started subtly, a gnawing unease that twisted in his gut whenever Nia interacted with others. The jealousy from the jazz club encounter with David had never fully dissipated. Instead, it festered, amplified by Rebecca's insidious doubts. Fit? His mother had sneered, implying Nia's curves and blackness were anomalies in their world. Too bold, too other for the polished elite. Michael hated that it echoed in his mind, a remnant of biases he'd thought he'd shed. He watched Nia more closely now, her mahogany skin glowing under office lights, her full figure moving with that unapologetic grace that had first captivated him. But in his paranoia, every glance from a colleague became a threat, every laugh a betrayal. In corporate America, Black women like Nia often navigated a minefield of unwanted attention, fetishized for their exotic allure, dismissed for their strength, caught in the crossfire of racism and sexism that made interracial dynamics a tightrope walk. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon, the sky over New York weeping gray tears that mirrored Michael's inner chaos. The office hummed with post-scandal recovery efforts, diversity workshops in full swing, HR scrambling to implement the new hiring protocols Nia had championed. She was in her element, leading a small team huddle on inclusive AI ethics, her voice resonant and commanding. Michael observed from his glass-walled office, pride swelling alongside a prickly unease. Then he appeared, Ethan, another old colleague from Nia's Lawson Corp days, a charismatic white man in his 30s, with that effortless entitlement that grated on Michael's nerves. Ethan had dropped by on business, but his eyes lit up as he spotted Nia, pulling her aside for a quick catch-up. From afar, Michael watched them, Ethan's hand on her arm a tad too long, his laughter booming, Nia's polite smile masking what Michael imagined as discomfort. But was it? Ethan's words carried faintly. Nia, you haven't changed. Still that magnetic energy. Remember our late nights on that project? You were the spark. Magnetic. Spark. Code for the exoticization Black women endured, their curves and charisma reduced to novelties in white gazes. Jealousy surged through Michael like venom, hot and irrational. He stormed out, interrupting with a clipped, Nia, I need you in my office. Now. She followed, confusion etching her features. The door clicked shut, sealing them in privacy. What's this about? She asked, crossing her arms over her chest, the motion accentuating the curves he both adored and, in his twisted fear, resented for drawing eyes. Who was that? Michael demanded, his voice low but edged with accusation. Another old friend flirting like at the jazz club? You seem to attract a lot of attention. Nia's eyes narrowed, hurt flickering before stealing into resolve. Ethan, he's harmless. We worked together years ago. Why does it matter? It matters because, he paced, words tumbling out unchecked. Because in this world, women like you get all this unwanted attention. Guys like him see you as exotic, something to conquer. It's distracting, Nia. For you, for me, for everything we're building. The room fell deathly silent. Nia's face hardened, the weight of his words crashing down. Women like me? she echoed, her voice trembling with controlled fury. You mean curvy black women? Exotic? Distracting? Michael, that's not jealousy. That's your bias talking. The same crap I face every day. Men objectifying me, society labeling me too much because my body doesn't fit some slim, white ideal. And now you? I thought you were different. He froze, realizing the slip, the subconscious prejudice bubbling up, echoing Rebecca's lessons in the media's scrutiny. In interracial relationships, black women often bore the brunt of isolation, partners' families questioning their fit, lovers harboring unexamined racism that surfaced in moments like this, leaving them feeling like perpetual outsiders. I didn't mean it like that, he backtracked, reaching for her. I'm just scared. The scandal, my mother, it's all piling up. I don't want to lose you to some guy who what? Sees me for who I am without the hang-ups? Nia's tears welled, but she blinked them back. This isn't about Ethan. It's about you not trusting me, not seeing past your fears. I won't be your secret anymore. Fighting your demons while hiding mine, we're done for now. She turned, grabbing her coat, the door slamming like a final punctuation. Michael stood stunned, the echo reverberating in his chest. Done? The word hollowed him. He didn't chase her. Pride or fear rooted him in place. That night, alone in his loft, the city lights mocking his solitude, regret crashed over him. Nia's absence was a void, her warmth replaced by cold realization. His jealousy stemmed from deeper rot, the ingrained biases that viewed black women as magnets for unwanted attention, perpetuating their isolation in relationships where love clashed with societal baggage. The next morning, she didn't show. Emily handed him a note, folded neatly on Nia's desk. Michael, I don't want to be the exception to your rules. I want to be the rule. This isn't professional, and it's breaking us both. Thank you for the glimpse of what could be. I'm stepping away. Nia. The words gutted him. He crumpled the paper, sinking into his chair as pain washed over him. Waves of loss, self-loathing, anger at the world that had shaped him this way. In America, black women in interracial dynamics often face this: the emotional labor of educating partners, the heartbreak when hidden prejudices emerged, the loneliness of being loved conditionally. Michael had failed her, his jealousy a mask for fears he'd never fully confronted. The office felt barren without her, files disorganized, tea mug untouched, her insights absent from meetings. Colleagues noticed his distraction, and the fire in his eyes dimmed. He threw himself into work, pushing reforms harder, but it was hollow. Nights blurred into scotch-fueled reflections, Rebecca's voice mocking his weakness, Kwame's pride and Nia's strength haunting him. Days turned to a week, the temporary breakup stretching like an eternity. Michael wandered Central Park one evening, rain slicking the paths, mirroring his tears. He realized the truth. His biases, about curves as distractions, blackness as other, had cost him the love that could heal him. Nia wasn't just a woman, she was a revolution, and he'd let fear eclipse that. But revolutions don't end quietly. Deep down, he knew this temporary rift was a crucible, forging something stronger, if he could muster the courage to fight for it. For now, though, the silence was deafening, a painful interlude in their story of disruption and devotion. The void left by Nia Okoye's departure gnawed at Michael Harrington like a relentless shadow, stretching the temporary breakup into a chasm of self-reckoning that threatened to swallow him whole. Days blurred into a monochrome haze in the wake of her note, the Apex Innovations office a hollow shell without her vibrant energy. Michael threw himself into the reforms he'd promised during the media crisis. Bias training sessions hummed in conference rooms. Diverse hiring panels scrutinized resumes. But it was mechanical, devoid of the fire Nia had ignited. Nights were worse. His loft echoed with silence, scotch burning his throat as Rebecca's voice haunted him, mingling with Kwame's proud defenses and Nia's wounded accusations. Women like me, he'd said, a poison slip that exposed the rot of his biases, viewing her curves and blackness not as strengths, but as magnets for jealousy and judgment. In America's intricate web of interracial love, Such wounds festered, leaving black women to question if they were truly seen or merely tolerated. A week turned into two, the autumn rain pounding New York streets like accusations. Michael wandered one stormy evening, umbrella forgotten, the downpour soaking his tailored coat as he found himself outside Nia's Brooklyn brownstone. Lightning cracked the sky, illuminating the brownstone's warm glow through lace curtains. He hesitated on the stoop, heart thundering louder than the thunder. What if she turned him away? But the pain of loss outweighed the fear of rejection. He knocked, the sound muffled by the deluge. Nia opened the door, her curls loose and wild, framing a face etched with surprise and guarded pain. She wore a simple robe, her curves softly outlined, a reminder of the beauty he'd foolishly diminished. "Michael? What are you—" "Please," he interrupted, rain dripping from his hair, vulnerability stripping his CEO armor bare. "I need to say this. Out here, in the rain, where I can't hide behind walls or words." She crossed her arms, stepping aside reluctantly. 5 minutes, then you go." They stood in her cozy living room, filled with African art and books on black feminism. Zora Neale Hurston, Audre Lorde, testaments to her unyielding heritage. Michael paced, water pooling at his feet. "I was wrong, Nia. So damn wrong. That jealousy? It wasn't about Ethan or David. It was me, scared, projecting my crap onto you. Growing up with Rebecca, she drilled in that slenderness nonsense, making curves seem like chaos, blackness like an outsider threat. I internalized it, let it poison how I saw you. Exotic, distracting, those aren't compliments, they're chains. In this country, black women like you carry the weight of being desired yet dismissed, loved conditionally while fighting for space. I added to that. I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry." Nia's eyes shimmered, tears mixing with resolve. "Sorry doesn't erase it, Michael. I trusted you to see all of me. My curves as power, my Dysonde Jen as richness, not liabilities. But you made me feel like the problem, like I attract trouble just by existing. Do you know how exhausting that is? Being the strong black woman trope, educating lovers on racism while healing from it?" He stepped closer, rain-chilled hands reaching for hers. "I know now, or I'm starting to. Losing you. It broke me open. I confronted Rebecca, told her standards are bullshit, excuses for exclusion. I talked to Kwame, too. He schooled me on Yoruba resilience, how your ancestors thrived despite chains. You've taught me more. That love isn't control, it's expansion. I love you, Nia, all of you. Your brilliance that lights up rooms, your curves that redefine beauty, your blackness that enriches everything. No more secrets, no more fears. If you'll have me back, I'll fight for us, for change, every day." The room held its breath, rain lashing the windows like applause or warning. Nia searched his eyes, the storm within her, mirroring the one outside. Then slowly she pulled him close, their lips meeting in a kiss that was forgiveness and fire. Salty with tears, electric with renewal. "I love you too," she whispered against his skin. "But this time, we do it right. No hiding." They reunited stronger, the temporary rift a forge that tempered their bond. Michael returned to Apex with renewed vigor. Nia by his side, not as a secret, but as a partner in transformation. She took the lead on the diversity campaign, her vision bold and unyielding. "We're not just checking boxes," she declared in the first all-hands meeting, her voice commanding the auditorium. "This is about equity, mentorship programs for black women in tech, pairing them with leaders, funding their ideas, body positivity initiatives, workshops, dismantling biases, celebrating all forms as professional power. We're partnering with Black Lives Matter affiliates for community outreach, ensuring our AI serves underserved neighborhoods, not exploits them." The response was electric. Employees cheered, some tearfully sharing stories. A curvy Latina analyst who'd hidden her figure under baggy clothes. A black intern dismissed as too assertive. Nia's programs took root, mentor sessions buzzing with energy, where young black women learned to navigate corporate minefields, their curves and cultures reframed as assets. One mentee, a brilliant coder named Jasmine, confided in Nia, "I always felt like my body was a barrier, too much for these white spaces. But seeing you, it changes everything." Michael supported her fully, his jealousy replaced by pride. He spoke at events, admitting his past flaws. "I was blind to how racism and body shaming intertwined, sidelining talents like Nia's. No more." The campaign rippled outward, influencing the community. Apex sponsored body positivity panels at local colleges, drawing crowds inspired by Nia's story, how a curvy black woman shattered a CEO's rules. Media coverage shifted from scandal to success. Apex leads tech revolution in inclusivity, headlines proclaimed, tying into broader movements like Black Lives Matter's push for systemic change and body positivity's celebration of diverse forms. But change wasn't seamless. Pushback came. Conservative board members grumbled about woke overreach, anonymous emails echoing old biases. Hiring for diversity means lowering standards. Nia faced it head-on, her resilience a beacon. "These aren't handouts," she countered in a heated meeting. "They're corrections to a broken system that excludes black women, viewing our bodies as unprofessional, our voices as threats. We're building better together." Michael stood by her, their love a quiet force amid the noise. Evenings found them in her brownstone, cooking Nigerian jollof rice, Kwame's recipe, laughing over shared dreams. Rebecca called once, her tone thawed. "Perhaps I was narrow-minded." It was progress, small but significant. As the campaign gained momentum, Apex's culture transformed. Diverse hires flooded in, and innovation soared. Nia flourished, her impact a tidal wave, community grants for Black-led startups, viral social media challenges promoting body acceptance. One night, under star-lit skies on her balcony, Michael held her close. "You've changed everything," he murmured. "Not just the company, me, us, the world." She smiled, her curves fitting perfectly against him. "We did. Love isn't just personal, it's revolutionary." Their reunion wasn't a fairy tale ending, but a beginning, a testament to growth amid adversity. In a society grappling with racism and body norms, their story whispered hope. Change starts with one heart, one voice, rippling into a movement that reshapes the tide. The winds of change at Apex Innovations carried Michael Harrington and Nia Okoye forward like a triumphant current, their reunion a beacon that illuminated paths once shrouded in doubt. Months slipped by in a golden rhythm, the diversity campaign blossoming under Nia's leadership, mentorship circles thriving, body positivity workshops dismantling old biases, and community partnerships echoing the calls of Black Lives Matter for true equity. Michael watched her with awe, her curves and black heritage no longer sources of fear, but symbols of the revolution she'd sparked in his heart. Their love, once secret, now bloomed openly. Stolen weekends in the city, public appearances at tech galas where they stood hand in hand, defying the subtle stares that still lingered in elite circles. Whispers of mismatch laced with racial undertones, questioning if a curvy black woman truly fit beside a white CEO. Yet amid the progress, Michael yearned for permanence, a vow to etch their story into eternity. He chose the Adirondack Lake House, a secluded haven nestled among whispering pines and glassy waters, far from New York's clamor. It was a crisp spring evening when he invited her there, the sun dipping low, painting the lake in hues of amber and rose. The house was warm and inviting, wooden beams, a crackling fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the serene vista. Michael had prepared meticulously, candles flickering on the porch, a table set with her favorite Nigerian dishes he'd learned to cook from Kwame, jollof rice spiced with love, plantains fried to golden perfection. Nia arrived in a flowing sundress that hugged her curves like a gentle embrace, her curls cascading freely, mahogany skin glowing in the twilight. "What's all this?" she asked, eyes sparkling with curiosity as he led her to the porch overlooking the water. He took her hands, his blue eyes locking onto her onyx ones, vulnerability raw in his voice. "Nia, you've rewritten my world. From a man trapped in biases to one who sees beauty in every curve, strength in every heritage. I was blind to how society diminishes black women like you, exoticizing your bodies while erasing your power. But you showed me love as liberation. I want to build forever with you, not as an exception, but as partners in every storm. Dropping to one knee, he pulled out a simple gold ring, engraved with a Yoruba symbol for purpose, a nod to her name's meaning. Nia Okoye, will you marry me? Let's rewrite the rules together. Tears streamed down her face, joy bursting like sunlight. Yes, she whispered, pulling him up into an embrace that sealed their fates. The lake mirrored their kiss, waves lapping in applause, as if nature itself celebrated the triumph over prejudice. Wedding preparations unfolded with deliberate grace, blending their worlds into a tapestry of unity. They chose Napa Valley for the ceremony, an intimate affair under vine-draped arbors, golden hills rolling like waves of promise. Only 30 guests, close friends, apex colleagues who'd witnessed the transformation and family bridging divides. Kwame beamed with pride, insisting on Yoruba traditions to honor Nia's roots. A libation poured to ancestors, vibrant kente cloth accents on the decor, rhythmic drumming that pulsed like a heartbeat. Rebecca attended, her demeanor softened by time and reflection. She'd confided in Michael weeks prior. Perhaps I was wrong, darling. She's formidable. It was a concession, small but seismic, acknowledging how her narrow ideals had perpetuated exclusion, dismissing curvy black women as unfit in society's upper echelons. The day arrived under a flawless blue sky, the air scented with blooming grapes and anticipation. Nia walked the aisle in an ivory gown that flowed over her curves like silk rivers, embroidered with subtle Yoruba patterns, symbols of love and resilience. Her curls adorned with fresh flowers, she embodied unapologetic beauty, defying the subtle racism that often sidelined black brides in American weddings. The pressure to straighten hair, slim down, and conform to white-centric aesthetics. Michael waited at the altar in a navy suit, his heart swelling as Kwame escorted her, whispering, "You're the queen your ancestors dreamed of." The officiant, a mutual friend versed in both cultures, wove vows that honored their journey. "In a world that divide," she said, "you unite, challenging biases, embracing differences." Michael vowed first, "Nia, you shattered my walls, taught me that true strength curves with grace. I promise to stand against the prejudices that once blinded me, to love every part of you, your brilliance, your body, your black heritage, as we build a legacy of acceptance." Nia's voice trembled with emotion. "Michael, you chose growth over fear. I vow to walk beside you, honoring my roots while forging ours, proving love transcends the rules society imposes on women like me." Rings exchanged amid cheers, sealed with a kiss that tasted of forever. Rebecca approached during the reception, her eyes misty. "Welcome to the family," she said to Nia, a genuine hug bridging the chasm. A quiet victory over ingrained racism, where a white matriarch began to see beyond her biases. In the golden rhythm of months that followed their Moroccan honeymoon, Michael Harrington and Nia Okoye Harrington built a life that pulsed with purpose, a symphony where love orchestrated every note. Back in New York, Apex Innovations had metamorphosed under Nia's visionary leadership. Now Vice President of Inclusivity and Communications, she steered the company to unprecedented heights. Headlines blared triumph. Apex wins Most Inclusive Workplace Award, a testament to her mentorship programs that empowered black women to claim boardrooms once walled off by bias. Diverse teams innovated wildly, turning tech into a tool for equity, while body positivity campaigns rippled nationally, challenging the shadows of racism that had long dismissed curvy black bodies as unfit for success. Michael watched her command stages and strategies with awe, his once cold empire now a beacon of change, proving that love could rewrite corporate legacies. But their greatest creation unfolded in quiet intimacy. One rainy spring afternoon, Nia curled on their balcony overlooking the Hudson, a hand resting on her belly, eyes wide with wonder. "Michael," she whispered as he joined her, "I'm late. 2 lines." His world tilted, joy exploding like fireworks. He dropped to his knees, burying his face in her lap, laughter mingling with tears. Our little one, he breathed, tracing her curves, the very forms he'd once feared, now the cradle of their future. 9 months later, as snow blanketed Manhattan streets in hushed white, baby Lily arrived in a flurry of cries and miracles. With her swirl of brown skin, fierce gray eyes, and tiny fists clutching Michael's finger, she was a living fusion, Nia's resilient heritage and his reformed heart, a Desan that shattered old codes. Years unfolded like pages in a triumphant novel. Family vacations tracing Nia's Phi roots in Africa, Sunday jazz brunches echoing their first date, a lakeside home upstate where Gatsby the rescue pup romped with Lily's giggles. At a TED-like event honoring women in leadership, Nia took the stage, radiant in a gown that celebrated her form, Lily toddling in the wings. I walked into a world of unwritten rules, she declared, voice steady and commanding, where curvy black women were exceptions, not leaders. But love broke those chains, mine with Michael, ours with society. We don't just exist, we lead the progress. In America, where biases linger like shadows, remember, true change starts when we embrace the full spectrum of beauty and strength. Forever isn't a plan. It's her, it's us, rewriting the story for generations. As applause thundered, Michael beamed from the audience, their family a living proof. Love's legacy wasn't in empires but in hearts mended, barriers crumbled, and a world forever altered. And there you have it, the tale of Michael and Nia, a story of shattered rules, reclaimed love, and societal transformation. From a CEO's rigid biases against curvy black women to a partnership that sparked real change, their journey reminds us that true strength lies in embracing differences, challenging prejudices, and building legacies of inclusivity. What did this story stir in you? Did it make you reflect on your own experiences with bias, love, or personal growth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how it resonated and spark a conversation. Thank you so much for joining me on this empowering ride. Your time, likes, and shares mean the world and help spread these inspiring narratives. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button for more tales of triumph and heart. Until next time, keep rewriting your own stories with courage and grace. See you soon.